Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of Freedom Friday here on the Ohio Patriot Education Network YouTube channel. I'm, as always, your host, the Ohio Patriot, and for today's episode, we're going to talk about why I will not personally be running for governor in 2026 and who I think maybe should be. So basically, this comes after a conversation that myself and a couple other members of the network had with some people on Twitter/X earlier today. And basically, it was over Vivek even being in the race right now is what it is, and him basically not having a primary challenge right now. And I don't know if it was myself or one of the other people that have control of the account there is what it is that we're talking about at the time. But one of us mentioned something about, it would take, millions of dollars to even like contest a primary at this point. And you would also have to have like several candidates in the race and stuff like that for any way you even have a chance is what it is right there. And the problem I have with people saying you only need one candidate, it's not the case at all, dude. You need to have at least two or three, honestly. Not really to split the vote per se, but enough to basically rock the boat is what it is. Because eventually you're going to have, like depending on who you're actually putting in the race, there is what it is. You're going to have at least one of these people have their entire lives smeared is what it is. Basically have, people look into their past completely and just basically try to ruin their fucking life, financially, etc., through mudslinging and stuff like that, which is one thing I've always hated with politics entirely, and that's one of the reasons why I've never actually had a real run in politics what it is. Because I don't feel like having people fucking bring up my dirt is what it is. I don't really have a whole lot, honestly. Like, it would mostly just be like, some shit I've said in the past, honestly, that could be considered racist at this point, honestly, or prejudice really is what it would be. But the thing of it is, like, when you're constantly attacking myself and others for being white in this country, and you think we're not going to fight back against that, against literally white erasure in this country is what it is there, yeah, you're dead fucking wrong is what it is. So, anyway, especially when you got people doing, white genocides in other countries like South Africa and stuff like that, and then people acting like it's not a big fucking deal, or everyone it's a huge deal. And that's one thing I've said many times in the past, and so have other people that control the networks account there is what it is. Sorry, internet's stepping out a little bit right now. There it goes. But yeah, this is one thing I've said in the past is what it is how, when you have these people undercut genocide, or even like right now, there's stuff going on currently where it's a group of people, I believe it's in Arkansas, called Take Back the Land or something like that. It's like, I think like 40-ish people or so that are white that are basically trying to create like white communities, what it is there. And it's interesting because, of course, the mainstream media is talking shit about them and stuff like that and acting like it's all white hate or something like that. And they want to have like basically racial segregation and things like that. But yet it's interesting because the same thing happened about, 15 years ago or so, give or take now. It was during Obama's first term in administration and stuff like that, where you had a bunch of black people do the exact same thing in Georgia, and I think it was called like it was something project. I forget what the actual name was offhand, but basically they bought like 100 acres of land there in like the outskirts of Atlanta, is what it was, and we're trying to basically turn it into a black segregationist area, is what it is. And nobody had a problem with that apparently, but God forbid you're fucking white, and they got a problem with it then, or again, not even just black for that matter. Look at all these people that are in Texas right now that are Islamic followers who are trying to do the same thing, and nobody, like, it seems like nobody has a problem with that in the mainstream media, but yet, God fucking forbid, 40 white people do something with like a handful of acres of land in Arkansas. Meanwhile, in the thing with Texas, it's like several, thousand, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even like 100,000 at that point. Islamic/Muslims is what it is there. They're trying to pull that shit. So it's like, yeah, that's a way bigger threat than, a bunch of white guys wanting to be like, no, we just don't want to be around the people who it is. So, anyway. But the whole point is, though, sorry, internet's dipping again. The whole point is, though, hopefully my audio is coming through okay and the fan's not doing too much in the background. It's too hot in the apartment right now to do anything else, though. But yeah, so basically the point is, though, there's several reasons why I'm not going to run for governor next year. The first and biggest one is the fact I have no financial backing whatsoever is what it is. And in fact, I know that Vivek already has I think it's like over $20 million in the fucking personal raised war chest at this point. Not to mention the GOP war chest on top of that he has at the state level to crack into, which is probably going to be another $30-40 million there, at least. And then not only that, but then you also have his personal wealth on top of that from the IPO scams and stuff he pulled for Big Pharma drugs and stuff he did many, many years ago is what it is there. So that's, another X amount of millions of dollars. I want to say he's considered a billionaire at this point, but I'm not sure. He might just be a multimillionaire. I'm not sure which it is. But either way, the dude has a shitload of personal wealth because of that crap. And yeah, there's no chance I'd be able to farm his asses with this dude unless I had literally such a grassroots following where I had pretty much every person in the state of Ohio give me $10 a piece or something like that. Only then I would actually be able to hold a candle to the money that Vivek already has in the war chest is what it is there. And this is the problem with politics entirely. I've said this many times, and it was for those interested, it actually was me talking about it about 15-20 minutes ago there on Twitter/X there. This is exactly what I mentioned then, that this is the problem with money caps not being in politics right now, because there is literally zero reason for any person to have to spend 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 something million dollars or more for that matter to win a fucking governor's race, to win a primary, to win a general election, whatever it is there. It should not take anywhere near that much money to win elections, dude. And my biggest personal problem is when you have people raising financial campaigns when they are already personally wealthy and they should be putting their own, really what it should be, honestly, there should really be a double standard in politics is what it is, where if you're coming as a candidate on a mass wealth of money, what is behind you, whether it be you're a multimillionaire, a billionaire, whatever the case be, you should have to personally put in the first $5 million into the race as that person. And if you're not willing to do that, then get the fuck out. Because the reason I say that specifically is because right there, it would put them on the hook for at least $5 million and showing that they are financially literate is what it is then. And that's another thing, going back to the money in politics thing is what it is. Because when you have somebody like myself who is very poor, who has grown up very poor, who has never been able to, get rich, basically is what it is. Even a handful of dollars is the difference between being able to make rent a month and not being able to make rent a month at this point, obviously, dude. Which brings me to another thing, obviously, I'm not going to get into a whole thing about it, but basically I'm in a situation right now where if I ran for office, it might fuck up my disability is what it is. And I'm not going to do that because it's my only financial money coming right now is what it is. And I'll leave it at that, basically. So that's pretty much the biggest reason why I wouldn't run. Now, granted, if I had another stream of revenue coming in during that time, maybe I would seriously consider a run if I knew, like I said, but really it comes back to being the fact that I know I'd not stand a snowball chance in hell of what it is, dude, versus the, mass wealth is what it is there of the opposition. And so there's no reason for me to run, obviously, not to mention the fact that, like I said, I'm a complete unknown, and being a complete unknown, pretty much, unless I would be able to have, like I said, at least I would say 20 million behind me right now, financially backing me. And it might not be that much, honestly. It might be only a couple million I would need really to start. Well, it would probably be I would say roughly 2 to 3 million to start out with, honestly. And it would be just getting my name out there to the rest of the state is what it is. And having people understand that, yes, this is why I'm running, this is who I am. And it would be basically spending that money on, ad buys, on literally creating an entire campaign at that point, having a campaign manager, being able to pay them, being able to pay everybody across the board is what it is there, which, I don't know if people know this, dude, especially when you're running for a governorship, it takes a lot of money to start out with. I would say minimum it takes probably at least $500,000 to $1 million, honestly, to start out with is what it is there. And do I have $500,000 or $1 million? Fuck no, I don't. Shit, I only have $5,000 in my name right now, dude. I'd be lucky if I had $5,000 in my name right now. So I'm lucky if I have maybe $300 in a given time right now is what it is. But yeah, the whole point is it would be financially impossible really for me to run, unfortunately. unless I would hit like a giant lottery, and then it would be, having to have that lottery money coming right away is what it is. To be able to run, then is what it would be. And I doubt that's going to happen. But because I know even if you hit like a lottery or jackpot or whatever the case be someplace, it would still take like, I think it's like 6 months to a year to get that money or something like that's what it is. So, but anyway, so yeah, like those are basically the main two reasons why I wouldn't run. Not to mention the fact that, like I said, I just don't feel like having my name dragged through the fucking mud by a bunch of assholes. And like for me personally right now, my health has become an issue lately, and between that and the fact that I'll be moving next year again, and I'm not even, like, that's another thing too, I'm not even 100% sure I'd be an eligible candidate at that point, because when I'm moving next year, it'd be like early April of next year, which is like a month or so before the primary itself would happen. And I'm not sure if I would be, because I know for a fact when you're like declaring candidacy and stuff like that, you have to put like an actual physical address of where you live. And I'm not so sure that they wouldn't try to fuck me if I made it all the way to the primary season next year, obviously, to be able to actually have the ability to then run. Because the thing is, like, this is one thing I don't know if people realize or not. I have personally been following Ohio politics since essentially Trump became president the first time around in 2016 or so, give or take. And I'll tell you what, man, in the past 9 years, 8.5 years, 9 years, someplace like that, I have figured out like how much corruption there is on both sides of the political aisle. That's why I did the Oathbreaker series for a while on this channel, calling out the corruption in the state and other states for that matter. And dude, you would be amazed, like if you go into the State House of Ohio or the State Senate of Ohio, how many people are doing pay-to-play scams at any given time and aren't being arrested for that stuff. And the problem is, the reason they're not being arrested for that stuff is because other people are also doing the same exact thing, and it becomes a mutually assured destruction kind of situation. There's a reason why the FBI, like, was like 15 years ago or something like that, talked about Ohio being the most politically corrupt state in the country at the time, and it still, I believe, ranks in like the top 2 or something like that's what it is. And it's very true. It's very sad, dude, that we even have to deal with this kind of shit. And it's because Democrats, who are total scumbags at this point, are in a position right now where they are openly committing deprivation of law every single day right now by pushing forward gun control and other crap like that, which is a total violation of their oath of office, which that alone should be them being kicked out of office for that matter. But then when they're trying to deprive Ohioans of our constitutionally God-given rights to keep and bear arms in this country, that should put them in jail right now for at least 366 days of their lives and never let a hold up office again after that is what it is. But again, nobody's holding them to account for that one because it's only a misdemeanor crime, not a felony, which is what it should be. That being said, I'm going to get into another discussion real quick for a minute or so here. So Tex Fisher, one of the state reps right now, he and I actually got into, it was actually me that got into him the other day with about him backing GOP gun control in some aspects or not, which was basically, there is a bill called HB 358 right now in the state of Ohio's legislature. Texas is the only Republican on it right now. And essentially it would create like a pamphlet for gun safety stuff is what it is there. And I called him out for being, the only Republican on that one, because it's another thing I've learned in the past 8 years or so of following Ohio politics is if your Republican is on a piece of legislation as the majority party in the state, that legislation never gets out of committee is what it is. And when you have a Republican on that piece of legislation, it will immediately get the votes necessary to eventually get out of committee and potentially to a floor vote at that point. Now, granted, there's also that last stance where the Speaker of the House at the time, or the Senate President, whichever chamber it's in at the time, still has the ability to be like, you know what, no, we're not taking this to floor votes, or they'll just like kill it before it goes to a floor vote is what it is there. And that's exactly what happened when Jason Stevens was Speaker of the House last General Assembly. Was there was multiple pro-Toy bills at the time that should have gone to floor votes that son of a bitch was holding up as what it was then. So anyway, that's also why he didn't run for Speaker a second time then, and why Matt Hoffman is now Speaker is what it is, which brings a whole other can of worms when it comes to both the GOP and the Democrats in the state breaking term limits and flip-flopping the General Assembly, which is something that really pisses me off quite a bit for the last roughly decade or so that I've, really been paying attention to stuff as of this year. So, and this really does go back to about a decade ago or so, because it was either 2014 midterms or it was a 2015 off-year election cycle. we put through a piece of legislation as a ballot issue in the state that people voted yes on, and it became law of the land at the time, to where if you are a sitting state rep or a sitting state senator, you can only hold office for 8 years, and then you are termed out of office, and you can no longer run for a third term, or in that, I guess technically it would be state senator to be a third term. For state rep, it would be a fifth term then. So basically, what I've noticed in the last 8 years or so of paying attention to stuff, what you end up having is you have a situation where the people who want to basically remain in power as career politicians will simply either do 8 years in the state house, or they'll do 8 years in the state senate, and as soon as they're termed, or it could be like a 6-year thing or something like that too as well, because usually it's like a full-term state senate, usually it's like a 6-year thing, and the state house is what it is there. And it'll be them basically finding a buddy in the opposite chamber, and then as soon as those people go up for re-election, is what it is, and be termed out or whatever, then they'll flip-flop into each other's congressional districts, is what it is there. And that's how the next election cycle will happen. Then you'll have, specifically, you had that with who's that one jackass that died recently? Kirk Shearing was a great example of this. Like, him and Scott Ollinger used to do that shit all the fucking time. Like, I think they even did it before the term limit thing was in place, because it was like, it seemed like every 10 years or so, like they were basically just dipping into each other's seats, is what it is there. Or I should say the congressional districts they each represent is what it was there, because they're not their seats, obviously. They would be the congressional districts they're supposed to represent, is what it is there. But it's just easier, obviously, to say their seats is what it is. But anyway, the entire point is, though, this is a bunch of bullshit. And most recently, in the last general election, Casey Weinstein, hate Hector himself in 2019, pulled this shit because he jumped into, I forget who was up for being termed out at the time in the state senate, but he basically took over that seat, is what it was then. And then that person jumped, I think maybe it was Cecil Thomas or something, because then Cecil Thomas jumped into the state house race, is what it was then. I believe it was for the district that Weinstein approves representatives, is what it was there. So, yeah, it's just all kinds of criminal scumbag bullshit, dude, I'm so fucking sick and tired of. But anyway. So, yeah. And the thing is, too, really the main reason I wouldn't even try to run for governor right now, even if you throw out, everything else I just said, with, financial issues, health issues, everything else like that, I feel like I'd probably get impeached on the first day or two of my actual governorship, is what it is, because I would literally go so hard against Islam in this country, and specifically in this state. You would have calls from my immediate impeachment pretty much, because my first day in office would literally start and end with the entire Somali community that piece of shit Casey's brought into, that fucking asshole Obama, be kicked the fuck out of the state entirely, is what it is. So yeah, they can get the fuck out of the state entirely as a terroristic threat to this society, is what it is then. Especially when you have pieces of shit like Ismail Mohammed in our state house right now, who, when he won his primary last year, was literally giving his celebratory speech all in Somali dialect. Not one word was fucking English, dude. How are you even legally allowed to be in office at that point, dude? Which, again, goes back to something I've talked about before that I want to actually do as a ballot issue at some point in the near future, which is one county, one rep stuff, because there's zero reason to have 11 jackasses representing Franklin County alone, especially when every single one of the 11 seats is held by Democrats right now. And the same thing here in Stark County. There's no reason to have 3 different people holding office from Stark County when you have literally 1 seat that would be in the ruralist area, and that would just be representing the entirety of the county as it is then, or even just smack dab right in the middle of the fucking county or something like that then. And it's everybody from the entire county be able to vote for that seat is what it is then. So, yeah, like I said, there is so much overrepresentation with Democrats just because of, and I know what it is. It's just bullshit with the population stuff where they're oh, but there's this many people in this congressional district, blah, blah, blah. It's who gives a fuck, dude? I don't care if you're representing Franklin County, representing 5 million fucking people, or you're representing, some other county in this fucking state that has like 3,000 people in it. It doesn't fucking matter. It should be one county, one rep, period. So, anyway. But yeah, finishing this off real quick. Since we're over 20 minutes into this, I want to have this be about 10 minutes or so. So basically, people I think potentially could run or should run right now to potentially primary pivot is what it is there. I think Candace Keller would be a good choice if she would want to step up and run. I'm not sure if she does or not. I know if Ron Hood was still alive, he would definitely, I think, step up and run. But unfortunately, he passed away. I believe it was about 6 to 8 months ago, give or take now. And then, of course, you had Chris Jordan, who passed away about a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago now. And the reason I bring up both Chris Jordan and Ron Hood is because had it not been for those men being as big of 2A advocate state reps at the time as they were, Ohio would not have the Second Amendment rights we have right now. We would not have constitutional carry. We would not have stand your ground. We wouldn't have any of this stuff. And that's another thing too. Like, this is one reason why I personally fought for over a year of my life under the Ohioans for Firearms Freedom moniker. That then became, obviously, that basically morphed into the Ohio Patriot Education Network. Those don't know. Little backstory there is what it is. Yeah, basically, there's 2 different orgs I actually created in this state right now is what it is. They're pro organizations. The first one was in 2021. It's called Ohio Firearms Freedom. That's what OFFF stands for. And then basically, it was the day that constitutional carry was enacted on June 13th of 2022 is when Ohio Patriot Education Network was launched, and that's what it is. And it became the main organization that everything else basically falls under, is what it is. It's kind of like the spiderweb kind of situation there, where it's similar to like Bloomberg stuff, where you have like, Bloomberg's like main thing is what it is there of like Moms Demand Action. And then like everything kind of spirals out from that is what it is there, where it's like Students Demand Action, like every town, the opposite of that. It's every town is the main one, and then it's like Moms Demand Action, Students Demand Action, also there's stuff like that, like all of Bloomberg's little lawyer arms and stuff like that's what it is there. And this is what I want Open to be more of, is what it would be. It would be the opposite of that, but of course I was telling you money is what it would be at some point. Because the whole point is it should be, like here's your main organization, and then it's like all these other things like spiral out from it is what it is. There are also like different like arms and stuff like that, or wings of the thing is what it is. Different spider webs and stuff like that is what it is there. To be like the outskirts is what it is. So anyway, but yeah, I think Candace Keller right now would be a good deal, obviously. I don't know how I feel about Tressel running. I know the person that was talking to me about this chick about a constitutionalist. I know she mentioned something about Tressel running. I don't trust him. I really don't trust Jim Tressel at all, dude. I really don't trust anybody with direct ties to Mike DeWine at all, for that matter. And I've talked about this ad nauseum because DeWine's Maximilian shit, dude. Like, if we were truly a just society, Mike DeWine right now would be sitting in a federal prison cell awaiting the death penalty for mass murdering people here in Ohio with the COVID death shots, including my mother, for that matter, who took one only because of the Maximilian shit and is now dead. So, there's a reason why I'm sitting in this apartment on my fucking boyhood home is what it is right now, because my mom literally passed away from the fucking Pfizer COVID shots. So, yeah, and she's not the only one who took that crap because of the Maximilian stuff and and like I said, and I've said this before, I'll say it here right now. The only reason that DeWine was able to do the Maximilian BS scam several years back now is because this dude literally embezzled taxpayer money. It was specifically federal tax money that was supposed to go to us at the state level as a fourth COVID check, which is what other states did with it. And instead, dickhead Mike DeWine literally embezzled this shit and used it for the fucking money for the Maximilian crap. Like, how that dude's not in prison for that alone right now is beyond me. But again, it goes back to the corruption of the state, I think, is why, of both major parties. Because again, if DeWine goes down, everybody else goes down with him, is what it is at that point. You know, that's one thing I've realized with Ohio politics in about the last 6 to 7 years, give or take. There are people right now that have been in power for X amount of time in this General Assembly, like I would say 10 plus years or so, give or take, because they flip flop General Assembly a couple times what it is there. And if you kick out those linchpins, they would be the ones that would turn states' evidence so fast, or federal evidence so fast for that matter, that they'd basically cut themselves a plea deal and take down the rest of everybody else that was what it is there. I'm not saying like every single person across the board right now is corrupt as shit, because again, there's other people right now that are like first-term people and stuff like that, and never been in power before this is there. But I would say, truthfully, of the 99 people that are in our state house right now and the 33 that are in the state senate right now, I would say about 70 would probably go down in the whole thing right now is what it is, because those are the people that are still in power to this day from previous general assemblies that have either, you know, been termed out and then jumped the other side to remain in power, or they basically have left for a while and then came back and are now sitting as a state rep again or state senator again, whatever it is now. So, yeah, I would say there's enough of them that it's basically like, I would say at least 70, maybe closer to 80 actually, even for that matter. So I'd give about 50-ish or so a pass right now is what it is. But yeah, I would say 70 to 80 for sure would be my like base number for those that would just go down with DeWine and everybody else for that matter if it was like a giant corruption scheme uncovered then. And again, there's a reason why people die is what it is, dude, because, you know, these scumbag criminal politicians don't want to go down is what it is then. Which again is another thing I would do if I was actually, you know, would get in the governorship here in the state, was I would go so hard against these fucking people and charge them with the crimes that they were, you know, had committed at this point, that again, it would be probably 24 hours or less in office before I get impeached as what it is. Even though it shouldn't be impeachable offenses at all for that matter, because what I would be doing would be directly constitutional based stuff that would be for the betterment of everyone in the state as what it is then. So anyway. But yeah. And really I think personally for me right now, like the way that between my health and the way that my brain is anymore, from just being like so, you know, in constant agony from all the health issues and stuff like that, I just wouldn't want to run as what it is, man. Like, I'm not saying that I'm like, you know, going to be gone in a year or two or something like that kind of situation, but like every day is a struggle basically is what it is. Just not having constant agony is what it is, and being in constant pain is what it is there. So like, do I think I actually would have a chance if I had a bunch of money behind me? Sure, of course I would. Anybody would for that matter. You could take anybody in the state right now, put $20-30 million behind them in a governor's race, and they would have enough money there that if they did it, they took the money and made financially responsible investments into ad buys and stuff like that, etc., they would probably become governor. Of course, they also have to be running on a good platform for that matter too. If people actually want to vote for them, that's what it is there. But the point is, though, is that yes, if you gave somebody the money that either already had a good platform for themselves or were willing to run a good platform at that point, that person could easily be the governor is what it is then. For, you know, 10 to 20 million bucks pretty much is what it is. And I would say low end 10. I would say it would probably be more closer to 15, honestly, just given how much, you know, Vivek's war chest is right now, etc. there. And again, it might need a little bit of influx here and there, so it might be closer to like 30 when it's all said and done kind of situation or whatever then. But yeah, the whole point is like most Ohioans at this point don't have, you know, anywhere from like $10 to $30 million to be able to jump in a race and win out of nowhere. Because obviously if you're going to do a Republican primary at that point, you're having basically a two-stage situation where you're having to burn a whole bunch of money just to primary this fucking Indian idiot, Vivek Ramaswamy. And then secondarily, it was weather stuff. And then secondarily, it would then be having enough money to beat whoever the hell the Democrat candidate would be, whether it be Amy Acton or somebody else jumps in the race right now, which that's one thing I fear. Like, we have enough time right now because we're still like 400 something days out from the actual general election right now. There's enough time right now for like a Tim Ryan type to jump in this race and potentially become the front runner. And, you know, you guys know my personal gripe with Tim Ryan at this point. That guy should also be in prison right now for literally calling for the murder of the MAGA movement when he was a sitting congressman at the time running against J.D. Vance in 2022 for U.S. Senate race. And the fact that his direct calls for violence led to a kid being run over by some deranged leftist, and I believe it was either Montana or Wyoming up there somewhere. And the fact that Tim was never charged with anything, which he should have been, is absolutely fucking ridiculous. So, anyway. But yeah, the entire point is, I think there are other people that could potentially run. I think it was a huge mistake that Dave Yost jumped out of this race entirely. And I honestly think, because I know I've heard some stuff recently, like it was like the ramblings of something. And I don't know if somebody's like holding some corruption stuff over Yost or what it is, because I heard something like a month or so ago. It was right around the time that he dropped out of the race, is what it is there, of like something up in like, I think it was either like Butler County or down in like Miami, Ohio area or something like that. I forget where it was at. But basically it was something with like some woman's death or something. Like I'm not saying that there's anything with like US like killing somebody who did there. I think it was something where it was something with like the AG's office maybe not doing enough to look into this death, like the murder that it might have been or something like that. What it is there, and like the families, you know, calling cover up or some shit like that kind of situation. Again, I'm not sure exactly what it'd be because I don't know enough about the actual cases, what it is there that was being brought up, so it's hard to say. But yeah, I think Dave Yost dropping out was a huge mistake. Obviously, I think he could have easily primaried Vivek in the actual Republican primary. There's what it is. Would I vote for Tressel right now if he actually jumped in the race versus Vivek? Again, hard to say because I don't really trust Tressel because of DeWine is what it is there. And I'm not saying that Jim Tressel wouldn't be a decent governor potentially, but again, like, do I really want somebody that, you know, is current Lieutenant Governor Mike DeWine is what it is there? And the answer is not really is what it is. I would much rather start fresh with a brand new person is what it is. And my biggest personal gripe with Vivek himself is what it is right now is the fact that the dude is talking out of every single side of his mouth and basically saying like one thing like right now, and then it's like a minute or two later he says like something else. It's like a direct contrast to that. And specifically with him, it is like he'll sit there and be like, oh yeah, Ohio's power grid is about to fail or whatever. And then it's like the next day or like 4 hours later, wherever it is there, he's like, oh hey, all these people in New York that hate this Zohan guy, come over here to Ohio and fuck up our power grid some more is what it is before it gets fixed. And potentially cause rolling blackouts in this state. And it's like, yeah, you're just a fucking idiot, bro. Like, there's a reason why India is a fucking shithole. Literally. There's a reason why Vivek's parents immigrated to America and his mom became a U.S. citizen here. By the way, his dad still hasn't in the last 40-something years of his life. Which, again, that's one problem I do have with the Ohio governor's race right now is what it is, dude. Like, how is that not a requirement for even running, is to have both your parents be legal U.S. citizens? Like, that alone would get us rid of Vivek right now is what it is. You know, that's the thing for presidency. You have to not only be a legal U.S. citizen yourself, your parents had to be too, and then you have to be, I believe it is, a continuous citizen in the states for I think it's like 14 or 15 years, which is what it should be anyway for all that stuff across the board for all the things, dude. Because really, if you look at governorships, like governorships are really just a smaller presidency at a state level, so it is there. So yeah, it should be similar requirements to the presidency is what it is then. And the fact that it's not, it's a slap in the face to everybody is what it is then, man. So, but I don't know. Like I said, whether it be Candace Keller jumping in the race and getting a bunch of financial backing, whether it be somebody else who's been pro-2A in the past and stuff like that, and also pro-life and everything else like that, or hell, whether it be somebody like myself, but with money is what it is there, that just wants to run a constitutionalist campaign is what it is. You know, that's what we need right now. We need a dark horse in this race is what it is. So, or really, honestly, it could just be like some random, like, township trustee or some like county commissioner or something like that stepping up then finally. And just having a bunch of people back them financially to be then or something. Because I think, unfortunately, like I said, like if you had the financial backing enough to where it would be, you know, no name recognition, but you have like the 20, 30, 40 million dollars, whatever it is kind of thing, and you could get that name recognition in about 3 to 4 months is what it is there, just by doing like ad buys and everything else like that. But at the same time, I think, unfortunately, you do have to have like at least a little bit of name recognition right now and currently be somewhere in politics in the state of Ohio currently is what it is then, or at least like being like an ex-state rep or ex-state senator or something like that would be then. So, which there's a couple people I think that would be good candidates, but unfortunately a lot of these people have, you know, endorsed Vivek already is what it is there. So, which one thing I think is interesting too, and this is how we're going to finish off today's episode right now, is looking at the endorsements that Vivek has right now in the state of Ohio. And I find it very, very interesting how things are listed here when it comes to who's actually endorsed Vivek publicly is what it is here. So, and I think honestly the biggest mistake was Trump backing Vivek for the governorship here is what it is, because that's why you don't have a contested primary is what it is right now, is because nobody wants to go up against the Trump machine is what it is there. So that's the biggest one. Then of course you got Blackburn, Mike Lee, Cynthia Loomis, Bernie Moreno, who's a fucking idiot, and also another immigrant in the state. And then Rick Scott are all backing Vivek as U.S. senators. You got a bunch of U.S. reps here that are doing it, 4 of which are from Ohio, the other guys from California here. And then you got Frank LaRose and Robert Spruce, who are both running for different things. You got State Speaker of the House, Matt Hoffman. But this is what's interesting. 15 state senators, which, by the way, there are 24 Ohio state senators right now. So it's like, who of the 15 are actually backing this idiot? Oh, yeah, that's right. We don't know because y'all are too fucking chicken shit to actually put your names out there, because you know for a fact if we knew your names, we'd be able to run primary challenges against your asses in every future election cycle. What it is, then you get you the fuck out of office when Vivek eventually fucks up this state if he does become governor is what it is. And that's one thing I do fear, is the amount of shit out of Vivek's mouth. The guy is definitely Obama 2.0 at this point, and there's no chance in hell he's not going to turn this state red in a 4-year time span, or not. He's not going to turn the state from being red to blue. Sorry, mine's kind of a little bit out of it right now because I'm very tired today. I didn't sleep well last night. But yeah, there's no chance in hell that Vivek's not going to turn this state hard blue from the mega red that it is right now in a 4-year time span, with just the stupid shit he's doing, whether it be bringing in a bunch of New York voter block, whether it be, you know, doing all kinds of other crap that would basically flip the state into a blue shithole, or at least a purple mix in the next 2 to 3 years is what it is there. And that's exactly what I don't want to see is what it is, dude. So, but anyway. Other people that have actually gone on record, though, to back Vivek's dumbass are State Rep Adam Matthews. And I like this one. 21 county sheriffs. Okay, which 21 out of the 88 is the question? Like, list their names. Seriously, people. And we got chair of the Ohio Republican Party, Alex, I don't know if that's the guy's last name, Trinafiloio? No idea. And then you got Aaron Baer, president of the Center for Christian Virtue. This is the guy who was trying to stop the anti-life / pro-abortion amendment a while back. Of course, the Center for Christian Virtue, I believe it is the SPLC, has now tried to label it a hate group as what it is, which of course they fucking would, because it's pro, life, pro Christianity is what it is there. Yet they won't actually, label Islamic terrorism or any Islamic terrorist groups as fucking hate groups, or black supremacist groups for that matter, like BLM or the Black Panthers, etc. there. So, let's see, then we got Arson Fredericks, who's a business executive, Steve Hilton, former Fox News host, Charlie Kirk, Carl Lindy III, who is the CEO of the American Financial Group. I almost guarantee this guy's part of Bilderberg. Elon Musk, fucking retard Jake Paul, and then of course Donald Trump Jr. has also endorsed Vivek, as well as the Ohio Republican Party and the Armenian National Committee of America. What the fuck? It's the first time I'm hearing about that one. That seems pretty fucking weird. What's interesting then is you look at Dave Yost, who actually withdrew. He had Ken Blackwell, former Secretary of State, and then 30 county sheriffs. So, and of course, for the Democrat primary, you got Amy Acton is the only idiot declared right now. And then both Sherrod Brown and Tim Ryan have expressed interest there. Like the only thing that we like, and of course, you had to have Trusted express public interest apparently right now. Like the only thing that potentially could be the dark horse here for declared candidacy right now would be this Heather Hill woman, who is the former president of the Mahoning County School Board. So, I mean, honestly, if it was her versus Vivek, like, I'm probably going to cast a vote for her at that point, dude. Just because there's no way I'm going to vote for Vivek, that's what it is. So, but yeah, it's hard to say, man. Really hard to say. One thing that does piss me off about this current political election cycle coming up here in 2026 is when you look at all the different things, whether it be Secretary of State, AG, auditor, treasurer, etc. Like all these dudes are basically termed out right now, and they're all playing fucking musical chairs for 2026 when it comes to other seats right now. Like the idiot Frank LaRose is going from Secretary of State to try to run for auditor now is what it is. You got Robert Spruce, who I believe is the current treasurer, who's now trying to run for AG. You have, I believe it's the guy who's the current auditor is trying to run for Secretary of State, etc. And it's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, just get the fuck out and let like 4 new people come in there is what it is, people. But they don't, because again, they're career politicians, they're fucking totally corrupt scumbag assholes, and they will never, ever, ever, and I've said this many, many times for many, many years now, as soon as they grab that brass ring, they will never fucking let go of it. That's why you have pieces of shit like Nancy Pelosi at a federal level, who's been in Congress since the fucking like early 80s or late 70s, someplace in there, because this old bitch will never fucking let go of power until she's literally dead in the fucking ground. It's why you have the Democrat Party, how sick and disgusting they are, literally wheel out Dianne Feinstein in her dying fucking hours of life for a goddamn Senate vote a couple years back now. Because that's how fucking truly disgusting people are, dude. That they will literally have people who are breathing their final breaths of life and trying to get them to vote for some bullshit piece of legislation. Honestly, if the entire system collapsed right now, I think we'd all be better off. I'm just going to say it like it is right now, dude. Like if every government in America right now just went gone, like we'd just be so much better off as a society is what it is then. Of course, it's never going to happen. Like short of a revolution of some kind, I don't think that's what going to happen, unfortunately. Especially after the 2020 lockdown, and you saw how many people jumped in line so quickly as what it is there. So, but it is what it is. So, yeah, it's hard to say, man. But needless to say, I'm not planning on running right now, what it is, because, like I said, for me personally, it's financial issues, somewhat health issues right now, and then my biggest concern would be my even being able to have a legitimate candidacy is what it is because of potentially having to move like right before the primary happens next year, what it would be. So, and that's why I'd rather have somebody else jump in here right now and be able to, you know, be backed or whatever the case, be making a name for themselves if they can. I don't think people realize either, like how much it does take to like even declare your candidacy in the state of Ohio is what it is, dude. Because to even be a declared candidate, I think it's like 500 people or something like that you need to have under whatever party you're running as to be able to back. It has to be 500 names that are being able to be verified. So essentially, what you're having to do, because it's not going to be something where you just have 500 names that you're going to put on paper or whatever the case be, like 20 people at a time or whatever, then, and just have like 25 pages be like guaranteed. Like they're going to look at that. They're going to look at like 19 of the names and be like, oh nope, this one person on here. They're going to be like, oh no, there's one person here of the 20 is not eligible throughout the entire sheet is what it is there. So that's the kind of shit they pull when it comes to like township trustees and county commissioners, all that stuff like that too, for that matter. And so, yeah, you basically have to have like a couple thousand people to back you right now is what it is. And I personally don't have that right now, unfortunately. So, which, like I said, I know if somebody did have like a slight name anyway, like a former state rep or something like that, or like even a former state senator or something like that, like if they jumped in that race, like they probably could have a chance with just like slight name recognition is what it is there. And maybe, a million or two backing them at the time or whatever the case, being able to, slowly amass money there. But I think, unfortunately, the wheels have turned so much right now that it would be such an uphill battle for anyone. Like, good fucking luck, really. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, good luck to Heather Hill at this point, too. Like, if she even stays in that race at all, like, she really is the champ at this point, man, because she is such an underdog just against Vivek right now because of the fucking powerhouse that is Trump's MAGA movement, basically. And I'm not saying it's really the MAGA movement per se. It's basically just like so many people that are just backing Vivek's, blatant Obama bullshit is what it is there. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, man. So, and like I said, for me personally, I don't feel like dealing with the fucking constant migraines and headache of that. And that's why I don't want to jump in the race myself as what it is right now. Because if I did, I would already jump into what it is. But again, if I was going to jump in, I'd want to have the millions behind me as what it is, which I don't have right now. And yeah, that's like the main reason I'm not going to jump in ever as what it is until I do. So, because my political platform that I want to point out, like most of the stuff that I tried to run on for in 2022 is that political platform. I guarantee you Vivek found that shit on the internet here or through my old videos and stuff like that, or somebody in his campaign has. And the motherfucker has directly ripped me off at this point. Like 80% of my old campaign from 2022 is what it is then. Which mostly it's all the different manufacturing stuff and things like that I talked about in that platform. So, I don't know. I don't know if I could actually sue his ass for plagiarism or not at that point, since he changed it up a little bit and stuff like that. But yeah, the last thing I want is for Ohio to become some bullshit Silicon Valley 2.0 at this point. I don't think anybody else does either for that matter. And that's exactly what that fucking jackass from India wants is what it is. So I just don't want to see my state destroyed is what it is, man. For some fucking assholes' profits is what it is. And I think this is what we're going to see under fucking Vivek's potential governorship will be then. And God forbid Amy Acton's criminal ass gets in there, by the way. But I said everything I said about Mike DeWine about 20 minutes, half hour ago, whatever it is now, it was double for Amy Acton, dude. That woman should be literally at a Nuremberg trial right now for crimes against humanity and be facing the death penalty right now for the shit she did to the state. Because you got to remember, for those who don't know, by the way, between the time that Ohio's lockdown started under Acton, who was literally appointed by DeWine as health director, she was never elected, by the way, in that role. She was appointed by that fucking asshole Mike DeWine. Between the time that she declared the whole COVID lockdown shit and the time that it actually ended, it was 442 days of our lives that were taken from us because of these fucking douchebags. A year and a half that no one in this state will ever get back, dude. A year and a half that so many of the kids that were underage at the time, who are now going to be first-time voters in the 2026 election cycle, lost out on, et cetera, et cetera. You know, for some of us, we lost old folks at that point. You know, I literally lost the last year and a half with my uncle because of these fucking assholes. Because again, it goes back to the COVID death shots, is what it is, that killed him too, for that matter. And I miss that man every day of his life right now, is what it is. So, I guess I'll say day of my life is what it is. Sorry, brains again. Tired. As soon as I finish doing this right now, I'm gonna go take a nap then, because I'm exhausted. So, but anyway, yeah, it's just a bunch of shit, man, is what it is, and it's just so fucking infuriating, is what it is there. I don't know what the answer is, honestly. Maybe just put a ballot issue on the fucking ballot to just take down the entire state at that point then, or actually, I guess technically what we could do is we could just enact Article 1, Section 2 against everybody right now, is what it is currently in state government, and just completely abolish the Ohio state government, is what it is then. That's another option too, by the way, if Vivek becomes governor, is just immediately enact Article 1, Section 2 against Vivek himself, and then everybody else in the state government too, for that matter, and it just abolishes the Ohio state government then. So, which then we could, I believe, recreate as what it is then. And for those who don't know what I'm actually talking about, so basically the way that the Ohio Constitution works is, this is back when you had the original founders of the state, basically, that got in power at the time, created this back in the 1800s, what it was there. And it was, again, going back to our founding days in this country, even our founding fathers in this country understood that, you know, political power corrupts absolutely, as it is there. So, but yeah, it's Article 1, Section 2, right to alter, reform, or abolish government and repeal special privileges. All political power is inherent in the people. Government is instructed for their equal protection and benefit, and they have the right to alter, reform, and abolish the same whenever they may deem it necessary, and no special privileges or immunities shall be granted that may not be altered, revoked, or repealed by the General Assembly, which that last part doesn't really matter, per se, because basically it's saying General Assembly. It's kind of written weirdly, because basically, when looking into it, how it was basically worded then is that the General Assembly itself can't actually be like, no, you can't abolish us, kind of thing, because it's like, no, we can't abolish you, is what it is. We can just abolish you as a government, that is what it is then. So, but anyway, my package finally just got delivered, I believe, so I'm gonna finish off this episode, then I'm gonna grab that real quick before somebody tries to sweep off my porch, is what it is there. So I'm pretty sure the solar delivery driver just dropped the thing like an asshole. Fucking people. So anyway, but yeah. So needless to say, I'm not going to run, but somebody out there should, obviously, if they have the money, if they have the financial name and stuff like that. And I think they could definitely have a good primary against Vivek, is what it is there. And I know a lot of us would back that second person over that asshole Ramaswamy, is what it is there. So, but anyway, it'll be interesting to see what the governor's race ships up to be in the next 10 months or so. Well, I guess 9 months or so, because it would be May of next year will be the actual primary. That's what it is. So yeah, the next like 8-9 months will be interesting to see what happens there. See how many people actually are in the race. That's what it is. Which you got till February of next year to be a declared candidate. But is what it is. I want to say it's technically January of next year at some point to do it. Where you only have to have like, I think it's like 500 people or whatever backing you in the state. And then if it is after that, if you're going to run as like a like non-declared party candidate or something like that, you have to have, I think it's like 1/50th of the state or something like that to back you, which is like, I think like it's well over 5,000 people at that point you would need then, which is absolutely ridiculous too, by the way. And it's much harder to be that as a not being in the race or whatever there. So or sorry, not being on the ballot, but it is there. So, as a writing candidate. But anyway, that being said, though, hope you guys enjoyed this Freedom Friday. And I will be back probably not until next Friday. Well, technically, I guess I'll be back on Sunday, most likely, with the man formerly known as E Honda, who now goes by Apolitical Biker here on YouTube. We will do his Gay Frog chat on Sunday. And then most likely on this channel, I will not be back until... actually, I might do a stream tomorrow, but it would be just like a BS stream is what it is, though. Because I plan on getting in a package tomorrow that's going to have a couple new knives in it. I'm going to do probably another knife stream or something like that then, but with the exception of that, I'm going to not going to do an actual another like Freedom Friday or anything like that until like next week is going to be then. So hope you guys enjoy us. I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace out. Stay safe. Always be carrying. Know where your exits are, etc. And never be a victim. Later, y'all.